At the end of Attack on Titan, I realized I was like, you know what? Attack on Titan is a mecha. It is. And I fully committed to like it is a mecha. What's good, guys? Welcome back to a little casual takes with your boy Archeotix here, and I am back with.
Why'd you do the baby?
I don't. Honest to God, I don't know. I have no idea. I did this on the pod being like Bird Gang because we know what happens in AoT. But anyways, yo, I'm here with my boy Augie here, the Attack on Titan aficionado that I go to. You know what I mean? He gasses up Attack on Titan the perfect amount, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I glaze it for sure, but I think we'll get into it for sure, but like I think with this ending, I think it's properly
glazed.
Enough. Yeah, properly glazed. That's what I would say.
Like, I think, honest to God, after I watched the finale and I went on like Twitter or whatever, I think I saw the right amount of like respect on Twitter, the right amount. Not too much crazy like this is the greatest thing ever, not too much this is like some shit. I saw a lot of people saying this is what the manga readers were complaining about, or like, man, that was not
honestly, I think the anime just kind of captured like what Isayama was trying to portray, whereas the manga, I don't know if you were around when the manga like dropped. I think it like the last chapter was like in April of 2021. I could be wrong, but I remember like my first initial reaction to the chapter was a really, really, really rough translation of the full chapter. And I remember reading it for the first time and I was really just content with the ending. I remember immediately once I finished it, I reread it through like another kind of a better translation. And when I had read it, I was like, I felt content with the ending. I wasn't like too happy or too sad. I was just like, damn, that's the end of AoT. And I was like, it didn't really hit like in a negative way as most people, like most manga readers kind of said. But the crazy thing is like after a while of just getting like being on Twitter or YouTube or anything, everybody's saying the ending's bad, the ending's bad, the ending's bad. It kind of rubbed off on me. And for a while I was like, damn, this ending's kind of shit. But then after like a really long while, after like a year or so, like going back and reading it, I'm like, damn, I'm pretty like, this is okay. And then like when I watched the last episode is when I felt what I felt when I first initially read the ending of the chat or like the chapter when it ended. Or like, yeah, I mean like, you know what I'm saying? Like when I first read the chapter of how it ended. And honestly, I think like a big reason why people hate it is just because a lot of other people hate it. And it kind of just rubs off on people because it did myself. And people just hate to hate. So, but I thought it was overall pretty good.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that people hate it to just hate. But I don't know how controversial this is gonna be, but I'm kind of glad that it got hated on by manga fans because it kind of like brought my expectations pretty like not low, but like low enough to where I felt like no matter what happened, this finale was not going to change my mind of what I already thought of Attack on Titan, which is one of the greatest anime I've ever seen. Is this an amazing 10 out of 10 ending? No. I think there are a few flaws that still kind of bother me a little bit, but I've sat with it to the point where I could say that I think this is a good ending. I don't think it's trash. I don't think it's just satisfying. To me, I think it was actually good. And when I thought about it more, I can't really think of a better way to end it. You know what I mean? I don't see myself thinking, oh, they should have done it like this. They should have done like this. It was more like, yeah, execution wise, I felt like maybe it could have been a little better, but I think it was the way it was supposed to go.
So you're saying, so let me get this straight. If there's no better way for it to have ended, do you think AoT just in general was inevitable just not to be a 10 out of 10 ending because the way the series was written? Or do you think a 10 out of 10 ending reflects on how you feel about like if you're like I feel like when people say like this is a 10 out of 10 ending, it's because what they envisioned throughout their journey with the series is pretty much what they got in the end. And I think a lot of people don't really like the ending of AoT because a big theory like when the manga was releasing was that there was two things. It was, Eren's gonna die, and they're gonna kill him and he's gonna lose, or he's gonna kill everybody and then that's it. Like he just commits mass genocide. Those are like the two biggest things that were going on. And I think the community was definitely split in between two, but I think a lot of people just don't like, because AoT is very real for this. Like it's very real in a sense where like Isayama's like world is so built up to the point where regardless of what route he would have taken, the ending he decided to go to was the ending that inevitably, no matter what decision the community was split by, whether he completely tramples over everything or he just completely or he dies, which he did, it was going to end the way it does. Like there's that one panel I sent you, it was Erwin, and he was like, people won't stop fighting each other until the human population is down to 1 or less. So pretty much like, even if Eren killed absolutely 99% of the population, the cycle of hatred and what the series is portraying is literally what it just reoccurred entire time, because that's like our real world in a sense. Like we, you know, no matter what war happens, no matter what kind of genocide that's going on, no matter what's going on in today's society, it's like stuff is still going to happen. Racism is still going to be a thing. Slavery is still going to be kind of a thing. Like it's literally just a cycle of hatred. And that's like Isayama is just very real for that in a sense where we didn't get the ending. We didn't get the Code Geass ending everybody kind of wanted. We didn't get like this typical shonen ending everybody wanted. And that's why I think a lot of people kind of envisioned with AoT, because at the end of the day, AoT is a shonen, but people just didn't get what they wanted. Therefore, I think they think it's just bad. And obviously there could be some nitpicks with everybody's like decisions and like whatever, that just goes down to like certain details. But I think overall that is like the common consensus of why people don't like it, is because it's not what they wanted.
Right.
That's what I think though.
So I could only speak for me personally, but I think the reason why to me the ending isn't a 10 out of 10 is because for one, I kind of have, to my own fault, I have too high of a standards for endings. And as well as I think the main reason is because it ended the way I thought it was going to end. Like there wasn't anything surprising about the ending.
Interesting.
Like I believe as soon as Eren found out, honestly, I think around the time season 3 ended, I kind of had a feeling like, I think this is going to end in
when he
Eren
kissed Historia's hand, or are you talking about when he
for me, it's when he points out at out on the horizon as like, if we kill all of them, will we be free or whatever like that.
Right.
And I think at that moment where I was like, I think this is going to end in Eren like dying. Like I feel like this is how it's going to end.
The thing is, like when he kissed Historia's hand in season 3, that's when he got all the knowledge he ever had. It all intertwined. So at first it's like he has all this knowledge, but Eren himself in season 3 and going into a bit of season 4 with the backstories before the time skip happened, he's trying to battle whether or not he can change it, because he has the knowledge he has, but he can't really change the future from happening because it's already set in stone, because he basically writes his own story. It's so confusing in a sense, but like it makes sense. It intertwines itself. But you know, it's basically the way I thought about it when rewatching it, because I've had some different thoughts, and I was just like, what can a kid really do? I mean, he's just like a kid after all, but like what can he really do to like change how the world works? Even with the knowledge he has, he's just one person. At the end of the day, it takes literally everybody to like make change. And the fact that he tried for so long, but it's inevitably impossible. That's why like committing mass genocide gives him the opportunity to basically commit one of his goals, which was to give his friends freedom within their lifetime. He was able to like basically make them live a decent enough life to where like they weren't fighting for their life every day. But even after their deaths, they still managed to, the cycle of hatred repeated itself. And that's why at the very end, that little boy that maybe is whoever, like it's just probably a boy that is going to be able to start the cycle again.
True.
So
that does lead into a couple of questions I have. I don't know if you have the answers, but these are the questions I've been going around in my head. One, that scene where he's like, I've tried so many like scenarios or whatever. Do you think that's on some like Doctor Strange shit where he literally saw into the future? Okay, so it's on some Doctor Strange shit where he literally saw into the future and was like, this is the only possible route this could go. to
Mhm.
to where you guys can live in peace.
Yeah,
Type
it was the only thing he was able to do, and unfortunately, it
Okay.
just didn't have him a part of it, which
Right.
sucks
Okay.
because obviously that's the option he doesn't want to do. Like,
Hmm.
let's say like the first couple options, like that's like the best option he has, and he's like,
Hmm.
no way, there's got to be a better option. And
Right.
he's like on his Doctor Strange shit, like you said, like he's
Hmm.
trying to figure something out, but that's how it was at the beginning. Like he was really depressed when he went to the ocean. Like it was his first time seeing the ocean, and Armin and
Hmm.
him, like we're talking about it, but you could tell just
Hmm.
like he was so like he already knew what was to come. And even that was like the one thing he wanted to see with his friends for his entire life. It virtually meant nothing to him. Whereas Armin and Mikasa are very happy. For him, it's like, damn, like this is cool. For one, I already saw this because I can see into the future. And two, there's nothing like we're not going to be able to live like this. Like he was just so focused on the future and the past, he wasn't really living in the present.
Yeah,
That's
that's what
crazy.
I noticed too. Yeah, that's crazy. And that would be the powers of the Attack Titan. Obviously, the Attack Titan is
Mhm.
the one that sees into the future and everything. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense. And two, there's another question I have about how his goal, of course, was revealed that he wants his friends to live a long life in peace.
Mhm.
Now, I don't know if he had control over this. I saw that he had control over, the Titan eating his mom, which is kind of crazy. Didn't know he had that power. But then it got me thinking. His goal was for all of his friends to live in peace and live a long life. He had control over something because he clearly did, since he revealed that that Titan could eat his mom instead of
Correct.
Bearhold. Why didn't he let Sasha live? Is my thing, because I thought they were friends. At least it's appeared that to me.
Because if he let Sasha live, then it wouldn't have been believable enough for his friends to be able to do what they needed to do. That's why he laughed when he did.
Mm,
It's because he needed to seem like the absolute worst person possible. And the events leading up
mm,
to where we got to the ending with his fight with Mikasa and Armin and him saying like I don't mess with you guys anymore. It's like they needed to believe that he
mm.
absolutely did not care about them, therefore that he could commit mass genocide and he could essentially make his friends become the heroes they needed to be to live the lives they deserve.
So so there was like no way possible that all of them were going to survive this,
Dude,
in order
no.
for his plan to work. Okay,
Yeah, no. Like
interesting.
he needed to cut one off for like pretty much to I don't know why Sasha per se, but like it's like one has to go essentially, and I guess it was Sasha.
I guess if you think about it, right, the way that Sasha died, it led Eren to see Gabby and Falco was a huge part of them surviving
Yep.
at the end.
That's probably
So
why.
that's probably why, if I had. But then again, the way Isayama kind of wrote this, at least in the anime, to me, since I watched the anime, I didn't really read the manga like that.
Mhm.
There's a lot of assumptions, like a lot of like you should just assume that this happened, or assume that this is what I meant by this. And I don't mind that, but it's like I wish there was a clearer picture, seeing as I've been with Attack on Titan for so many years. But the if that's the way he writes it, it's the way he writes it.
What do
I
you mean clear picture?
like, well, for example, this is another problem I had. So when the episode dropped of Eren revealing like he's the person who pulled the trigger on Grisha and showed Grisha like his whole plan and everything like that, and literally like Eren's the reason why Grisha did what he did. I'm a little upset, and this is a nitpick, obviously. I'm a little upset that we never got shown or explained what Eren showed Grisha in the finale. I personally would have preferred him to actually either show or explain what he showed Grisha. Especially like, he asked Eren like, "Oh, does Carla live?" or whatever. And I'm like, what did he show him? That like, because Carla clearly did not live. And it's like, okay, maybe he gave him like some fake image or whatever. But I everyone basically like kind of convinced me, and I just came to the conclusion that he just showed Grisha exactly the plan that he's gonna do, and Grisha just accepted it, which I would have been personally more fine with that answer if it was kind of more direct, that's what he showed him. Me personally, I wish it was a little more direct. I don't know if you think I'm like
No,
being
I
too
agree.
on
No,
it.
no, I agree. I think something about Isayama with his great writing, and I can like the reason why I kind of resonate with his writing a lot more than most mangakas is that because he seems to be a person with a lot of like really intricate and creative ideas. and he just has so many that like for him. I remember when he did like a small interview before the last chapter release, and he said like there's like he was sitting down at his desk and he himself didn't even know how to end his story because he probably had like the main consensus of how he wanted to end it, but there's just so many things on, I guess, dialogue and like our clear, like the clearer message we want that he wasn't able to portray. That's why we got like a 0.1 or 0.2 chapters after. But even then, I think the story he built up was just too. It was too like this is like top tier glazing, but I think it was just too intricate even for him. Like it got to a certain point where like even himself like got overwhelmed of what he could explain, and I think that's because like he had more time to be able to build up his world and his characters, but like when it got to the very end, it's like I think that's when it got really rough for him because he was really trying to land that ending. And even himself, he doesn't give himself credit for like the stuff, and I understand that completely. Like it's like you have this work of art here, and like people are like, most people think it's a masterpiece, and then you just think it's like just something you're working on. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I definitely feel that. I think if I were to describe Isayama's ending, it's like in gymnastics where like they took a step to like balance themselves instead of sticking the landing. It's like you were like you were like on the cusp.
Yeah.
Almost. I feel like that's just me personally. And I still think he did a good job for what he had. You know, I feel like again, I can't really think of a way this could have gone differently. You know what I mean?
I'm starting to agree with you a little bit more because I think the roadmap for how it ended couldn't have ended differently. I just wish there was more. I think words were misplaced in some areas, and I think dialogue just needed to hit a little bit better. Like, not saying it didn't hit hard when it did, because it definitely for sure did. It just, I think there needed to be more explanation for questions that I guess just weren't really answered for a lot of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Before this recording, I had a problem. Now I think differently, but I did have a problem with how I felt like Eren shouldn't have erased everyone's memory. I felt like I always wondered, like, why didn't you let Armin in on the plan? Because Armin is a logical guy that he would, if it was really the only way, he would execute it with Eren. But
no, 100%. No,
yeah,
I don't think so. He would have found a way. He doesn't see the same thing Eren does, and it would have been impossible. And why would you let someone in on the plan if you already know how it's going to end? There's no point.
Yeah, I finally realized that now that I'm like, you know what? It would have been too much. It would have been too much for Armin to be like, maybe Armin could have at some point just rejected it because he's a human after all. You know, as logical as you can be, it's human nature to not want to kill people. You know what I mean? So it's like, I've come to the conclusion that no, it was the right idea to not let anyone else in on the plan, even if it is as logical of a person as Armin.
It would not. It could have been anybody in the series. It wouldn't have worked like at all. And that's what really sucks is that he had to do everything alone and pretend like he was like this asshole and like this super villain when obviously what he's doing isn't right. Like we're not condoning it. However, it doesn't matter even if he killed one person, two people, or everybody, it doesn't matter because it was still gonna like repeat itself. And all he wanted was for the people around him that made him get to where he was at before he was able to kiss Historia's hand, live the life that they deserve because their whole lives they've been fighting their entire lives and nobody's equal. Like that's the thing. It's like nobody's equal. So like it's just you either fight or you die. And that's why like if he didn't fight for his friends and kill all these other innocent people, you know, they were innocent too. If he didn't fight for like his friends and the people he loved, then they would have been able to live the life they deserve. You know what I mean? And that's just like really hard for people to like understand. Like a lot of people just could find like a different ending. I really don't think it could have ended any differently. As much as I would have wanted to see Eren on that other side, there is nothing. Like there is still gonna and that's when at the end of the series, it literally flipped. Now it's the Eldians flipping on the Marlians, and like they're getting the ones high in power, and that's just gonna keep cycling.
Right.
Like it's you know what I mean, and it's gonna be they're gonna be able to live like the fancy life they deserve and like whatever, but that's it. Like they wouldn't. I don't think Eren would have lived happily ever after. Even if he did live, there would have still been people. They would have been fighting. Wars would have been going on, and there still was. But
they still showed it. They were like, yo, the Eldians were like literally like a war country.
Yeah,
like not even that far off from where the ending hit. happened?
They basically just had PTSD, and like since they had the upper hand, they weren't gonna let that slide. They weren't
Right.
gonna let like they weren't just gonna go peacefully like live their days. They were gonna prepare for the worst, and which they did. And so any other country like that tried to test them, it wasn't gonna work. So
How do you feel about? So I don't agree with this, but I can see where people are coming from. How do you feel about people being like Isayama has kind of like a terrible message, being like, oh, in order for you to be accepted, you need to change who you are. It's kind of like saying like to racists or whatever. They're like, oh, in order for you to be accepted, you got to act like us, be like us, whatever. It's kind of like how people have that parallel between like, oh, the Marlians were still scared of the Eldians, and in order for them to not be scared of the Eldians, they had to get rid of that Titan power at the end in order to be accepted. How do you feel about people kind of coming to that conclusion, or like, do you think they're reaching too hard, or what?
can you repeat that? Like I'm a little confused.
So basically, people are kind of being like Isayama has a terrible message of like saying that you should change who you like, you should change what makes you you in order to be accepted into the general society, which is a terrible message. That's the main thing, which is kind of leading to like nationalism.
I think it's just, I mean, his message is like, with something like that, it's kind of hard for people to just change how they are because no matter even in our real world, no matter where you're born, no matter how you're raised, whatever, you're gonna have like you're gonna be programmed essentially in your early years just to think a certain way subconsciously, and then like those thoughts like are like as you mature, like they're gonna be able to change, and you're gonna be able to change things about them. But a lot of things from birth to like I guess like till you start maturing really are just kind of programmed in your brain. And I think even as hard as they would try, they'll still be scared. Like I kind of like it's just real. Like I like that's like the easiest way I can describe it. It's like really, I don't think that message is stupid though. Like I don't think it's dumb.
Okay.
Like
I do think people are a little reaching when they're saying like this is Isayama's message. I don't think it's really his message. I think it's just a weird outcome that happened due to the story.
yeah, it's not
You know what I
like
mean?
his main message of the series. I wouldn't say
Right.
that. I just said something like they would fall in. Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally understand why people think that. I personally didn't get that from the series, but it's like, hey, I can totally see it. I want to get to you about some of the stuff I felt like were how do I put this? Very shonen esque, and I kind of like turned my head like, oh, right, this is a shonen, where they kind of did this thing where they're like, Falco flies out of nowhere, like, yeah, he did have wings, but we had no recollection of another Titan being able to fly,
Right.
as well as it's the Jaw Titan, not the Beast Titan that could fly. Kind of weird to me. And how they were like, oh, we had to test out we had to try, even though it's going to destroy the ship. They let us like try it out once, and if it fails, it fails, but we have to try. And it ended up working. It worked out in the end. Falco saves the day, helping everyone out. Huge props to him. And honestly, like, it was a cool scene. I'm not going to lie to you, but do you think that's a little too much of an ass pull for this series?
I'd say like that's another thing I think Isayama had a wonderful idea for, because the build up of Falco, and just because the three biggest things in AoT that are very symbolized are number one, birds, number two, numbers, and number three, like statues and like pillars and stuff like that. And I think Isayama did a good job of connecting Falco and like birds together. Especially even the animators did really well, like in the endings and the openings. They really symbolize that like Falco and a bird like mean something together. However, I do think maybe I'm just not fully educated on it, but I think that there is more reasoning to why Falco's Titan was the first Titan to be able to fly. Honestly, I can't really like think about it right now. I know I've like thought about this before and like did research on it, but I really don't know. But at the end of the day, like, do I think it's an assful? Probably in a sense, but I do think Isayama had some idea of why his Titan was going to be the first Titan to be able to fly, at least within the timeline they lived in. Because there's when we saw at the end, like there's multiple different forms of Titans, multiple different types, and they were just like previous users of like most of them were the Beast Titan, like the Minotaur one, and I believe there was another one that was like an animal. But I don't know. I really don't know. Maybe it was just something to do with like his spirit animal or something. I don't really know, honestly.
Yeah, like I just kind of I look just wish it was the Beast Titan. I feel like that would have made more sense instead of the Jaw Titan. But that's just a
That
slight
definitely would
nitpick, you
it
know?
definitely would have made more sense for sure. But I
Right.
mean, you can say like his Titan, it still had the predecessor like attributes of the Jaw Titan with the beak and stuff. It just
Hmm.
happened to be a Titan that was able to fly. So I
Yeah.
mean, I would definitely say that's more of a shonen kind of thing. It's kind of just pops out of nowhere. But like honestly, a lot of those big kind of transformations and a lot of that I've noticed within shonen just in general, a lot of us think it's kind of like an ass pull, but there's a lot more behind it usually, and I think that's a big thing just in shonen in general, especially in manga. Like, I was gonna say in stories in general, but like manga specifically, like there's something about transformations that like mangaka really take into consideration of how this should make sense, and I do think there is some more background behind the jaw tine and why Falco's able to do that. I mean, you could probably find a YouTube video on it or something like that. But I will say, as of right now, I'm not fully educated on it. But I do think there's some like meaning or some like descriptive way of like explaining why he's able to fly.
Yeah.
You
I feel
know,
like it might be out there somewhere. We just don't know.
there's definitely foreshadowing though, for sure. Like even in the beginning of season 4, like I forgot his name, but the general, he was like, I wish there was a Titan that could fly. Or like the first scene you see in Falco, like when you see Falco open his eyes at the start of season 4, the first thing he sees is a bird flying over him. In the ending, it's literally a bird flying over Marley. Like
Right.
it's just birds, birds, birds. Like
Yeah,
I don't
birds
know.
are everywhere. Yeah, they represent the freedom that, Eren like sought after. And birds are always been a thing. That's why like it really pissed me off when people are like, "Oh, why did it have to be the bird that's Eren?" I'm like, "Bro, birds have been associated with Eren since the beginning." Like what are
Yeah,
you
the first thing you see in the AoT anime is a bird. The
Yeah,
first thing, the first
literally.
second is a
And
bird.
then Eren wakes up from his nap with
Yep.
after you see the bird. So it's like, yeah, Eren's the bird, bro. I don't know what to tell you. It kind of made sense, at least to me. Um. Anyways, there was one thing that I didn't go back to look and see why this happened, but when that little fog happens and it turns all the Eldians into Titans, I forgot
Hmm.
how that fog came about. Was it because of the explosion of
Yeah, when
Eren?
he blew up his head.
Okay, and that fog is just coming out of him pretty
Yeah.
much after the. Okay, and also another thing, like I don't know if Isayama does this on purpose, but Isayama makes Armin seem like a bitch, like everywhere like he goes. Like I don't know what it is. When Armin got captured, I was like face palming so hard. I'm like, why'd you make Armin look so weak at the beginning of this? Like, why can't you just let him execute his plan as the colossal titan? And I don't know. I don't know how you
I think
feel
that's
about
just
Armin.
Armin's character. Armin's a very emotional character. He's been like that since he grew up. Like he's not gonna just completely 180 like Eren did. Even Eren himself, what like that's Isayama's characters don't now that I'm thinking about it, they don't 180 at all because deep down, obviously, Eren was the way he was. We've seen at the very end. Like, he didn't 180 or completely change or his character development or whatnot. Like, he was still the same kid. I mean, for Christ's sake, he literally cried because he didn't want Mikasa to marry another man. And that's just a young, like, people need to realize he's a young adult. Like, he's so, like, in love with someone that, like, it's impossible to see, like, a future with her, with someone else. Like, I get like it could be corny for some people, but I think people just need to like experience that kind of like depth in themselves. I don't know. Maybe that's just me looking too much into it, but like
Right.
I feel like I feel like there's a lot of things, especially with Armin's character, that he's just a very emotional guy. Like that's just who he is, and he's very intelligent, and that's always been how he is too since the very start
Right.
of the series. So I guess like him looking like a bitch or making him seem out to be like, I guess, but like that's just my take on it. Like I like that dynamic between both Eren and Armin because Armin's obviously it was more shown throughout the entire like even throughout the entirety of the series to the very end when he became what is it, the
So
54th commander or whatever, like when he became the
yeah.
commander, even then on, like he didn't feel like he was anywhere going to be like Erwin. Like he was still the same character he was, you know what I mean? He didn't get like this whole badass like I mean, he had some badass scenes, and he is badass in some scenes, but like he's still the same guy. Like it's not just gonna change because of a title. So
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so funny to me when like they like when Eren like drops the facade and he's like crying and stuff over Mikasa. I'm like, yep, Eren's always the same person we always knew. Like he always like at deep down inside he's always been like a crybaby because
Oh
like
yeah.
I feel like I know people got mad about that because they're like, oh my gosh, but Eren's supposed to be badass. No, he's not. He's not supposed to be badass. That's all a lie. Like that's a lie, guys. Like he's always been this way. It's just you know, you just believe that was him, but it wasn't. You know what I mean?
Did you see that? This is off topic. It's not off topic, but um, that tweet. It was like Gene and Mikasa's relationship is gonna be like Jaden Wills and
Jaden
Aaron's
Will Smith.
Tupac. Like I was like, oh my god,
That was
that's
the
so
funniest shit. I was like,
that shit
yo,
was so funny, bro.
too real, a little too real.
It is a little too real because
Oh,
you know
man.
you can see in the ending like Gene over Mikasa and like
Yeah.
their kid, but like oh man,
Oh
like
man, that's rough, buddy. I don't know what to tell you, man.
it is rough.
Um,
But that's
for
real
me,
though. Like that's real. Like shit like
that
that
is
does happen. Like it does happen, and it's like they're so caught up in each other that like they'll move on, but they'll never be what they had with that other person. So
yeah, like it's happening right now. Like it's literally
yeah,
happening
literally
right
happening
now.
right now. It's a perfect. It's a funny ass tweet because it is real. Yeah.
It's too true. It's way too
Yeah.
true. Also, okay, so I personally didn't look into it too much. Do you believe Historia's daughter is Eren's kid?
No.
No. Okay. I'm so curious.
That would have been bro. You can see the dude coming out. Like I don't think they and I especially like and if it is like that's some real shit too because like us not knowing is just as bad as the character like Mikasa not knowing that's like his
Right.
kid. You know what I mean? Because we would have found that out in the story, like somewhere or another. It could have been hinted subtly. I just think it just happens to be Historia like with another man, and obviously they had kind of like a thing ish. But I do think it would have been explained a little bit, or just shown like Mikasa like knowing or someone because I don't know. And I also with his cry and like about Mikasa finding another love, like I don't think he was in love with anybody other than Mikasa, and I don't think he could do that to Mikasa. You know what I mean?
Okay, I can see that. I'm asking this because there are well specifically RJ. I talked to him about this. He's like he has this thing where he has a director mind where he's like, why would they cut from seeing Eren to like to the daughter type shit? That's gotta have meaning, right? And I'm like, hey, I'm not in film school. I don't know. But that's not the thought I had when I saw it. So I'm like, bro, if it is, I guess. Like, but to me, that doesn't like matter at the whole grand scheme of things. You know what I mean?
Nah, yeah, I really don't think it's his daughter, like at all. I think it's just that random farmer that was with her. Like, I mean, the thing is, the timeline does kind of match up, which is scary in a
Right.
sense. But I think, oh man, that would piss me off. Like, if Isayama knew the answer to that question, like, well, I mean, obviously he does. He
Right.
wrote the story, but I'm saying like in a sense where like we would be able to have an answer. It's like it doesn't really matter,
Right.
because the characters don't know. Like Mikasa wouldn't know, but I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, something like that to me doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Same to me. Same. Another thing that kind of bothered me a little bit about the Attack on Titan finale, I feel like if they were gonna do the romantic parallels between King Fritz and Ymir with Mikasa and Eren, I felt like they introduced it a little too late for me. I feel like they should
I
have
agree.
introduced it a little earlier. You know what I mean? Like
I agree.
I think stepping back and I really thought about it, I'm like, you know what, this makes sense. But you did not build this up like enough to
Especially with all the stuff they mentioned throughout the season with Ymir and King Fritz, it like almost seemed like a complete 180. You know what I mean? But that's also which makes sense though to the parallel with Eren, because a lot of people at the time did think it split half the community. A lot of people at the time did think that this is Eren, like this is Eren now. He did a complete 180. He did a complete 180. And people thought this is him. And like I think that although yes, it was a little late, I think it just makes sense because of how Eren at the very end now we're finally seeing him and his true self. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a parallel in a sense. And I guess like that's like saying, would you have liked Eren to come out with this like talk like before like how we had like right now with like Armin and stuff? Because it happened on the same in the same episode for a reason. You know what I mean? He built that. He wanted that to be at the end, just like how he wanted Eren's dialogue with Armin to be at the very end.
I think what bothered me was I felt like after you give the whole like story of Ymir and how she came to be and her relationship with King Fritz, not right then and there, but I felt like maybe like a little after they could have like kind of mentioned something about like how she really loved him and it's like some Stockholm syndrome type shit where she just couldn't like even the atrocities that he did to her or whatever, she still loved him type shit. I wish that was, you know,
I agree though too. Like I definitely think that, and this goes back to what I was just saying, because I would have liked this conversation. Like I was really hoping that, you know, it was just the very last second Isayama finally decided for this like to turn the switch back on with Eren and like the rest of these characters at the very end. But I do think just as much as like I would have liked it to be earlier. Well, I'm getting conflicted in between my sentences, which is crazy. Like, honestly, I do think it should have happened earlier. Same thing with this dialogue. I do think it should have happened earlier, just so we could have had more. Isayama could have had more time. But another thing is that a lot of people don't know is that Isayama is so obsessed with numbers that chapter 139, he wanted the series to end specifically on 139. The reason why is because there's one founder, there's 3 walls, and there's 9 titans. 139. This fool is obsessed with that shit. Like he's so obsessed with like numbers and having things perfect. Like he's a perfectionist in so many ways that he has so many of these clouded like kind of thoughts that just sometimes like he has really good ideas, but when it like comes down to like really trying to nail that, like hit the nail on the coffin, I think it's just like there's too many things at once where he couldn't decide how to fully do it. And that's why himself, like he wasn't really sure that if he stuck the landing or not. You know what I mean? Even to his own series after it's fully ended. It's crazy.
I definitely feel that. And I think, honestly, the fact that it did turn into some type of, like, romantic parallel, I personally liked it. I know there are some people online that absolutely, like, dislike it, to where, like, oh, why is it a romance now or whatever? And I'm like, it makes sense, honestly, like, the way they describe it in the anime and whatnot. I don't know if he felt that way, like, while reading the manga, but to me, it made sense.
I think Isayama just kind of just grew with this series, and as a person in general, that like his story just managed to form into this kind of like thing towards the very end. You know, and he was still trying to keep the same theme with it towards the beginning, but like as the story went on, like it just kind of transformed into this very realistic political, and like it got really heavy on its world building to the like point where this is why like everybody's saying it like, oh, I didn't really mess with it or I really loved it. But I do think a common consensus that I don't see, like you said earlier, I don't see this story ending any differently than the way it did. I just wish there was this, that, and the third. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like it couldn't have ended any differently, which is crazy. That's why I think like it's crazy that the big thing that a lot of people were thinking, and myself included, that completely got debunked, which not completely, but like sort of kind of, is that I thought there was going to be an anime original ending, because Isayama has always said that the anime for Attack on Titan has always been the main source material. Even though that he's writing the manga, the anime was always like where he could go back to and be like, these are the changes. And technically in this ending compared to the manga, there were some slight changes, which especially with the scenery at the very end, if you look in the manga, I don't know if you read the chapter after watching the anime, but like the very end is not how it looks in the anime. At the last strip in the manga, it's basically like it's Mikasa looking down on a civilization, but the civilization isn't nearly like as advanced or as green as like it looks in the anime. Like it looks like it's just starting, but compared to the manga and the anime, they're two different things, which it's still like maybe they were just anime changes, but like there's a lot more greenery in the anime and it's a lot more full of life, whereas like the manga, it's like it's just starting to pretty much like form a society, which, you know, I could be looking too much into that, but I thought that the anime was going to be this version, kind of like a fairy tale in a sense, where it was going to make some changes in order for Eren to be able to find a way to live happy with his friends. Because the manga, the way a lot of people thought, and this is like obviously debunked now, but they thought we thought there were going to be two different timelines. So the manga was a timeline in a sense where Eren looked into it and he's like, okay, this is how it's going to end in this scenario, and the anime was going to be another scenario. That's what I thought, and a lot of other people too. There were so many theories about it, but they just didn't decide to go that way. And honestly, looking back on it now, like with how Eren tackled everything that happened in season 4, even in the anime too, like there should have been some drastic changes within the anime for that to even occur. Like he wouldn't be committing mass genocide if there was some sort of way for him to be able to live with his friends. Because even if he did live, there would have been nothing he would have been able. Even if he was like, okay, like I'm good, I'm done committing like genocide. Like even then, like there's no way in hell that anybody on the entire like because the Titans would have still been there. Like it would have been completely impossible. So he had to die, which really sucks because. For me, Eren's my favorite fictional character, and to see the character that I grew up with for like 10 years, like it sucks. It really sucks. Like seeing like him not be able to get the ending like I thought he should have deserved. You know what I mean? But that's just me.
But like you said, there was like no other way. You know what I mean? No way it was. Did you really like the changes that the anime made?
I did.
The manga, like
I did.
How can you like be kind of like? Let me know specifically like what you really liked about like which like the changes that happened.
I think some dialogue changes were pretty good, although I have read multiple versions of the manga, and honestly I couldn't even tell you right now like which translation is the actual official English translation because I've seen so many different ones even with different publishers.
The only panel I saw like that kept coming up was the one where Armin was like, "Thank you for being a mass murderer for our sakes" and stuff. I don't know.
That one that did change to me. To be honest, I didn't really. I thought it was more of a necessary change. Just because that's probably something Isayama. I remember when the chapter came out, that was a big thing people were talking about as well. And I do think Isayama probably made that change himself because like. In my eyes, like if I'm writing this end or if I'm like animating this ending and I'm like wanting things to be perfect, I'm gonna go back to the manga and ask him like, is this, you know what I mean? Like if there's anything changed, he probably would want to had made that change himself. Same thing with the greenery and stuff at the end. Like the last like couple panels are like really not like too much change, but I think it was enough change for us to realize like that. Like that's what he wanted. He wanted to look more like full of life rather than like they're just starting to be civilized again. They wanted to look like they could live, and that's what they did. They're all wearing like all these like really nice clothes, and they're all like going out and doing activities and stuff, like Gabby and Falco. But what else? I don't even really know. I just know that dialogue changed, and I know the ending kind of scenes were changed. I don't know if there's too much else that I saw. I just think like there are certain how would I say this? Like certain frames, certain panels that were changed for the look of the anime, and that's also something I liked. You know, with the Eren crying stuff, like on the ground, like it's just like a lot of people don't realize like that's, you know, he's a human too. Like he's human. Like that's what he's been like expressing throughout the entire series. Someone who is a monster isn't gonna cry over the people he loves and the people he cares about. Like if he's a monster, he's just gonna completely tumble over everything, and which he pretty much did. However, he's still human at the end of the day.
Right.
He still has these emotions.
I don't know if you got this vibe from reading the manga. While I was watching the anime, when Armin and Eren were having this like emotional talk, there are memes about this, about how like they're supposed to gay kiss at the end. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh yeah, I saw that too. It did look like they were gonna kiss.
Bro, so I was thinking, I was like, honest to God, I thought, is he actually gonna go through with this? Because it felt like it. I was like, whoa.
It did feel like it too, because like they got really close, looking at each other in the eyes and stuff.
And it happened in the manga too. Okay. Right.
In the manga, no. Like they're just like looking at each other with like teary eyes, and then they just like it cuts to them hugging. But like in the anime, it builds up a lot more. Like it looks like I never got the impression that it looked like they were gonna kiss in the manga ever.
Okay, but
it did look like that in the anime for sure,
bro. I was honestly like, I was gonna be cool with it because I'm like, hey, you might. It's a fucked up situation. Might as well, I guess. Like, emotions are high.
Nah,
Sure, I guess. I don't know. I don't know how long you guys been talking. I don't know, but that was
that's
a lie.
crazy.
That was crazy to me. I was like, yo, are they about to? Oh, okay, they did it. And I was like, whoa, that was insane. But
Something
anyway,
something I wanted though that we never got. I wanted a because I've always seen Eren. There's this one video out there, and I always refer to it when I talk about this. It's like a analytical video on AoT, but it's Eren and Reiner, and they've always been basically one side of the same coin. You know what I mean?
right,
Like the heads and the tails. I
definitely.
really wish that like I got a retrospect on like a dialogue between because he did speak to everybody, but the only one we saw was Armin's. He was able to speak through everybody. Did you catch that or
Yeah.
no?
Yes.
Yeah, so he was able to speak to everybody, but like we didn't get to see. I really wanted to see Reiner in his because I feel like a rundown of the series showing like both of them on the opposite side of the same coin playing out throughout the entire series
Mhm.
would have been something I feel like a lot of people kind of like they kind of like skip over it, which I think that would have been cool because I do think Reiner is like the I'd say like I got Eren Reiner, so Reiner's my number two, but
Yeah.
I would have for sure have like appreciated that in the series.
I think that maybe is something Isayama wanted to do, but because of like runtime and stuff, there was just
Of
no
course,
like there
yeah.
was no room to like have that in. I definitely thought about that. I was thinking in my head like I wonder what he said to the other guys. Like I wonder what he said to, Jean or like Mikasa or like, Levi. Well, what did he say to them? I always thought about that, but there was just no time.
Yeah, all of them were just really well. Any kind of interaction Eren had with a one of the main characters in the throughout the series, I think like a main problem with that was like I guess like for example like Connie. Like Connie had like his whole thing with his mom, and I think the conversation he had with Connie was like I need you to understand that your mom's gonna be okay, like you're gonna be okay, and things are
Mhm.
gonna go back to like how they should be. But like I just can't be there with you. And I think that's just a conversation he had with every character. Annie, John, obviously Reiner, obviously Armin, probably a few more I'm forgetting. But
Yeah.
definitely like I think it would have been nice to show like even like within just one panel. Like one panel showing like the shards of each of them or something. You know, something cool would have been like that would have been cool, but you know what I mean? Like how do you feel about the Levi? Levi's character like how it
At the
ended.
end.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's my thing, right? Okay, and we could honestly might as well get into this. Well, at the end of Attack on Titan, I realized I was like, you know what? Attack on Titan is a mecha. It is. And I fully committed to like it is a mecha because there's too many parallels to mecha endings. One of them is the Levi ending, where it literally parallels and like kind of has the same vibe as the Gurren Lagann ending with Simone. Freaking what is it? Kogias gets compared so many times. You know how people are saying like it's like Kogias but not as good. Um, and the way that Eren is kind of like talking to Armin and how they're in each other's heads like speaking and you go through all of Eren's thoughts, it gets compared to Evangelion and how like the end of the original anime like ended with Shinji just in his head talking to these other characters and how he's interacting with them and like he's in his head just speaking like the plan of like what's going to happen or like what he has to do now. Too many mecha parallels. But with the Levi ending specifically, I felt so bad for him. I
Why?
felt so bad. I'm
Because he
like,
lost everybody. I mean,
he
he was
lost.
still. I think his character. Go ahead. Because you
I
were.
just think, like one, he lost everyone, which is like, you know what? It would make sense that Levi would be the last person standing from his regiment. But two, it's like, damn, you risked your life and your body and everything. Your emotion, like you have insomnia because of how like traumatized you are. You have PTSD for sure. Almost like, did he lose his leg? I can't remember.
It was his arm. No, his leg. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, his leg. And it's like, damn, and you're just out here like, man, you have to give candy to kids as your like total ending. I'm like,
I
damn,
mean,
that's really how you end it.
I like his character and how it ended, just because the main message of like the Scout Regiment and like the whole thing with Irwin and like even in the OVAs he has like with his friends that he grew up with and stuff, and even Hanji, like the whole thing is devoting your hearts, but like they can never really see the end. They can understand the beginning, why it happened, and moving forward and dedicating your heart for those who've like dedicated their hearts to. And like that's like he basically was like, this is it. This is the finish line. We reached the goal, and he's the last one standing, like out of the scouts to be well, not the last one out of the scouts, but like he's the last like main scout,
Right.
and
Yeah.
everybody over them is like watching, and he's like, they did it. He accomplished their goals. Like, and from what he went through as like basically a street rat to where he's at now, I think giving candy, I think he's very content with giving out candy and stuff like that compared to what he grew up with not even receiving any food at all. Like I liked his character because a lot of people did think, myself included, that Levi was going to die. Like his character just had to be the character to die. And he was literally just the one. Isayama was like, fuck that. Like, I'm going to make this guy the last one standing out of like the main scouts. And like, just tie it full circle.
I guess talking with you, like, I guess it does make sense that he ends up helping out the poor because he was poor. You know, it's like I could see that. I could definitely see like a full circle thing. I don't know if you've seen Gurren Lagann.
No, yeah, I haven't seen Gurren Lagann. Oh, I've seen a bit of it, but I never finished it. I think we talked about this before. I don't know.
Okay, yeah. I got the same vibe at the when I saw Levi like doing that. I was like, damn, it's like Gurren Lagann at the end. But I won't get too deep into it. But yeah, for anyone that's seen Gurren Lagann with like Simone and stuff, like you know what I'm talking about. It gave the same vibe to me. The way Levi's arc ended. I don't know how you feel about my take on like, Attack on Titan is actually like a mecha now. Like I don't know.
I can see why you say that though. No, I mean, if we take out the Titans and put robots, yeah, like
literally
100%.
The same thing, honestly.
100%.
It's just there is too many mecha inspirations that I see in Attack on Titan.
Well, you want to know something too? I'm about to drop a big kind of thing on you, and anybody that actually knows anything about AoT. So there's this visual novel or visual game. I was actually just informed about this a couple years ago, like right towards the ending, and so actually this might kill a lot of people's enjoyment for it, but it doesn't mind. So Isayama actually was inspired by a visual novel, visual game, whatever it is. It's called Muv-Luv, and that is a mecha. It's like a mecha, like kind of like, let me type it up. Muv-Luv. I think it's Muv-Luv Alternative. And it's a visual novel adventure game.
Oh yeah, it is.
But it's a mecha.
It's on Steam.
So
what the heck?
Yeah, it's a lot of the character parallels, a lot of how the story runs, a lot of like just a lot of things that make AoT is actually heavily inspired by Muv-Luv, and which is a mecha. Yeah,
I like that. You know what? It's a mecha. Yup.
Yeah. So like, which is kind of funny. It is heavily. And honestly, a lot of like, it does actually. I've heard it takes a lot of people's enjoyment away from AoT because it. I'd say, inspired is a little nice, a little generous, because there's definitely some like a lot of things that were taken from it.
Oh, really?
For me, I don't really care because this is the story I found first, and it's the story I love. So it doesn't really matter if they took it or not. It did make a new story out of it and change some things, but like there's certain like big things in Muv-Luv that are used in AoT, which is like you can tell they copied its homework.
I personally don't care. I think it's amazing, actually. Honestly, I think it makes me like it more. The fact that it like got inspired by like a mecha, like a mech type game. I'm like, oh shit. I actually like it more now, honestly.
It makes sense though, for sure. So like even without knowing that, you were already thinking that, and the fact that you thought that, it's like obvious now because like it was inspired.
So I don't know if you saw like Isayama did an interview after the finale of the anime came out. This like dropped either yesterday or today, I can't remember. But he said something about how while in the middle of writing Attack on Titan, he wanted to change the ending. He said like at the beginning, I knew what the ending was going to be, which, he foreshadowed so much towards the ending already. And I'm glad, me personally, I'm glad he stuck with the ending. But in the middle of him writing, he said, I actually thought about changing the ending, but I knew that the way the story's going, I don't think there's a way I could really change it, even though I really want to. I don't know how you feel about that, how like in some parallel universe, there might have been a different ending for Attack on Titan if Isayama really wanted to rewrite it. I don't know how you feel about that. Or like what he could have rewrote.
I feel the same way he would feel if I was writing the story of AOT as well. If I knew exactly how it was gonna pan out and the direction I knew these characters were gonna go, of course. I love like Eren's like obviously again, he's my favorite fictional character, and obviously he probably grew an amazing attachment to writing Eren's character.
Mhm.
And at first it's like, okay, I know how this is gonna end. I started this way, I'm gonna end it this way. Cool. Now I'm writing it more, I'm going more in depth, and I'm like, damn, like this is like this is my story and this is the way I'm writing it, but do I really want these characters that I'm like putting through all this shit for? Do I really want them to get the ending that I originally thought of? And that's probably like just the conflict he had in his mind, you know what I mean? Like I think that of course I would have wanted like from my in my perspective, I would want a different ending. But should I really get that ending that I want rather than what should be actually the real ending? You know what I mean? I think that's just kind of the conflict he had with himself. And like, I would want Eren to be able to live with his friends and live happily ever after. Sure, I want to get the shonen ending where everything's fine. But I think the way, you know, midway through the story, he's building the politics, he's building these, like, he's making all these other subcategories within his story really advance. So it's like, damn, if I do the ending that I want, is it really going to make sense for what I've been building up this entire time? And that's kind of what I think he probably thought.
I think the reason I read that the reason why he was feeling very conflicted is because, you know, Attack on Titan first came out, the manga, in 2009, and that's just the published part. Like, he's probably been working on the story since like years before. So
I do know that, I don't know if this is for sure a fact, but I do know that he went to Shonen Jump for his story, and they were like, nah. And then he went to a bunch of other companies, and they're like, nah. And then I think the magazine he was in, he finished all the way through and finally accepted his idea, and then he got it. He got to be able to do it.
Yeah. So he was saying like how he was basically a kid when he thought of the ending, and he was like, I think in his mind, like now that he's like trying to like figure out how to like, you know, send it off, since he was more mature at the time. Now he's probably like, man, I could have ended it this way instead, but it's already too late. I already wrote it like the way it's supposed to. So I get that. It's like, man, like I thought about, I was kind of childish at the time to like end it this way, but I kind of have to, you know. And it takes a lot of maturity to be like, I have to end it this
100%. That's what I think. That's literally what I think it came down to, is that maturity of the decision he wanted to make. Even though it's his story, he wanted to stick through what was the right thing to do in the end for his story, and the way he decided. Like, even right now, I didn't look at this before, I'm looking at it now, and in quote it says, that was pretty much how much of the ending from the manga did you have in mind when you first began writing Attack on Titan, and how much did it change along the way? That was pretty much there from the beginning. The story that starts with the victim who then goes through the story and becomes the aggressor. That is something I had in mind right from the get-go. Along the way, though, certain aspects of the story didn't go as expected, and I adapted and fleshed out certain aspects. So again, like probably the political stuff, probably the stuff that's in the middle range of the series, like towards season 3, towards season 4, like that's where it's like, oh shit, I'm making this a lot more like
complicated
than I thought it was going to be. And boom, he wasn't able to, at that point, he was like, I gotta stick to what I was doing.
Yeah, it takes a lot of balls to be like, I gotta end it this way. Like, I already thought of it. Granted, do I feel like he could have executed it better? Yes, I do. But at the end of the day, it ended how it should have.
Correct. I agree.
With Eren being the bad guy of everything, Mikasa slaying him in the end, and the Eldians taking all the or his crew specifically taking all the credit of like saving humanity, and they live in peace for however many couple thousand years they decide to live in peace. Or was it a couple thousand? Actually, was that ever confirmed how long they lived in peace? Because they went at the ending credits, they went through a good amount of years till
I think all that matters is that his friends were able to live a life, and probably their children and their grandchildren. By that time, it was already like, okay, like that's where things are gonna start kicking off.
So at least like 3 generations, probably.
I'd say at the very least their generation alone, because they already at the beginning of the series, at the beginning of the end, they were already, you know, preparing for war. Pretty much, they were already getting their armed military ready. So you know what I mean. Like, I'd say at least their generation lived, and I'd say 3 is pushing it.
3
honestly
yeah,
pushing it, because like that's within like 100 years. So like by that time, like that's enough time for them to like already prepare for something, and they're not starting from sticks and stones. You know what I mean? They have this
right.
military like background now, so I
Yeah.
do think the cycle was honestly, it was probably, it was just a, you know, a good way of looking at it is probably it was just a pause in the cycle, because the cycle is never going to end, but it was a pause and enough time for his friends to be able to
Yeah.
live the life they deserve. So
And
I'd say that.
well, what's crazy is that that's what people didn't like about the Code Geass ending, where like where people, there was a huge swing where people loved the Code Geass ending, and the pendulum swung the other way, and then people are starting to think like, nah, the ending's actually overrated because of the fact that they're like, you already watched Attack Code Geass, right? They were literally like, oh, spoilers for Code Geass, by the way. I don't know if you caught that, but basically, Lelouch died for the sake of peace, but people are saying, oh, but there's no way you could be peaceful like forever. There's always going to be conflict. You know what I mean? And I felt like, you know what? Thinking back, maybe Code Geass was a little too idealistic with the whole peace thing.
100%. That's why I think
Yeah.
I'm a full believer of why AOT's ending is air quotes better than Code Geass's ending, because Code Geass's ending is something that we all wished of AOT's ending, because if it's something that's not, you know, they're both good endings. I just think if you decide to go down the more realistic or fairy tale route, it really just depends on like what you think is better. And I think the more realistic route is more so what I enjoy specifically. That's why I think AOT's ending is just more like, it's like, damn, like you really did that. And it's not something you have the utmost freedom to do whatever you want with your story, but you decided to make it, you know, you throw us into this world where we are like, oh shit, it's like a fantasy, but then you close us in with something that hits home, essentially.
Right. I think it also, well, I don't know about better. I don't. Me personally, I prefer the Code Geass ending.
I wouldn't even say better anymore. Like I would just say like it's just whether you prefer one or the other.
Right. Yeah, I think it also deals with the fact that when I watched Code Geass the first time, I was a teenager. Like I was like 13, 14 when I first watched Code Geass, so I was definitely more in the you know, the mentality of being more idealistic. Whereas now as a grown adult, you know, I watch Attack on Titan. I think I would have preferred this ending of like more realism now, but I think, you know, call it nostalgia all you want. I think Code Geass, like, I think to me in anime is the pinnacle of all endings. Could be nostalgia again. Maybe you caught me. Could be, but I think that's also what kind of made me not like the Attack on Titan ending as much, is because I saw a little too much Code Geass in it, and I'm like, but Code Geass did it better. You know, air quotes better. You know what I mean? So it's like maybe that's why I think the ending isn't a 10 out of 10, but I still think it's good. I really don't see what people thought when they said that it was an ass ending. I really don't.
So for me, endings now, just kind of reflecting on this, I've never had like a 10 out of 10 ending
Really.
in anything. I don't think in anything other than like maybe a movie,
Right.
where I don't get enough time to fully grace what world I'm being put in. And when I spend a lot of time, or at least a decent amount of time with the series, I don't think I can ever envision like a perfect ending. And that's why I don't even think AOT's ending. I just prefer AOT's ending because it throws you into this fantasy world and then it brings you into the realism. Whereas Code Geass is like, you know, it's more of like, it just sticks to, it's like, Code Geass is great, don't get me wrong. Although I just think like it's also the nostalgia factor, and like my like 12-year-old self I'm like, damn, like Eren's so cool. Like I want him to kill all the Titans and then like free his friends and like get outside the walls and like explore like the things they're looking in these books. Like that's the ending my younger self would have wanted. And that's kind of why like I'm going back to like Isayama grew with this series. Like he grew with his series and he probably wanted to change the ending and he thought about it, but then he realized like, damn, this is like the story I wanted to write when I was, you know, starting, and this is how I need to end it, because this is just like I just think it takes a lot, especially when you have the utmost, like it's like I have all the power in the world to do this certain thing, but I choose not to because I need to do what's right, in a sense, right, air quotes, because it's a story. It's not necessarily like something that's morally wrong or morally right. It's at the end of the day, it's a story, so have fun with it. but he took it to heart in that sense. And like that's my
Yeah.
perspective on it. I think he really took it to heart in that sense because you're writing a series for since 2009 ending in 2021. Like you definitely get attached to that series. You definitely get attached to what you're doing and basically it becoming your life work in a sense. He decided to take the more mature route, even though he has like he's basically God in the sense, but he's able
Right.
to he wanted to do what he sought out to do from the very beginning. So
I think when I was younger and like got into anime, I used to have that mentality of like, you can't be the goat without a good ending or like a great ending or whatever. Nowadays, a great 10 out of 10 ending is hard to come by. So to me, what's important is the beginning and the middle. Now,
I agree.
The ending just can't be ass. That's all it is. It just
I agree, 100%.
just be satisfying, please.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at my list right now. I think I only saw like 4 10 out of 10 endings that I believe are still 10 out of 10 endings. And for me, that's Code Geass, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Fruits Basket, and Kuroko's Basketball. Those are the only 4 like 10 out of 10 endings for me. And even then, that's just preference.
This is off topic because I know we're talking about AOT, but I can't see Full Metal. Like obviously I have my beef with Full Metal, but like
Yeah.
at the end they literally say, "Oh, there's this entire other country over here, but I'm gonna end the series now."
I guess.
Like
Yeah.
you just threw an ounce of world building into my face, and you're now going to end the story. Like
Okay, yeah.
I don't like that. That's just me though. Like I was satisfied with the conclusion of these characters, yes, but
Mhm.
when you don't conclude everything full circle, to me that just kind of pisses me off in a sense. It really does. Like I like things to come full circle, and you're right. I think the beginning and the middle are the most important parts. The
Mhm.
ending I just need to be satisfied for. That's how
Right.
definitely I think now. Because
Mhm.
now that I think about it, I definitely don't have a 10 out of 10 ending. Like in
Mhm.
anything other than a movie, probably just
Yeah.
because
Right.
I spend too much time with these characters to think about like 2 hours, 3 hours is not enough time for me to fully like cycle through my brain and what I need to think about for like these characters, the world, like the power system, whatever it may be, shonen, seinen, whatever. Like
Mhm.
it's not enough time, or like within a movie, it's not enough time for me to really get into all that. So like I can have a 10 out of 10 ending where I'm like concluded with the series or like the film. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. And
Which scares me for One Piece because
you
oh
know,
man,
you
it
know what's
scares me.
you know what's crazy? I'm gonna give you this. I have a bad feeling. I think Attack on Titan is the precursor what's gonna happen with the One Piece ending, where it's gonna be so divided to the point where people are gonna say either it's goaded or the ending was
Oh,
ass.
100%. And you
Like,
know, I think
yeah.
I definitely do. There's something different about like me glazing One Piece again, but
Mhm.
like with how everything in One Piece is, like I think we're getting everything AOT, like we're starting with the fantasy, getting to more the realism and getting really in depth on like especially now with biblical references and all this shit they're getting into now. Like it's
Mhm.
crazy. Like Oda literally just gets into any sort of mythology or philosophy or whatever and decides to just throw it into his story. But
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day we are gonna get that fantasy kind of ending, like that idealistic ending, just because that's Luffy's whole character. And especially with him being able to do the stuff he does in the story now, like with Gear 5 and stuff like that, I do think it's going to be an idealistic ending. It's not going to be realistic.
I think you have to be idealistic at this point. With it, I
Mhm.
think you've gone too far, like in the journey, to the point where you could end it realistically. You know, especially with a series like One Piece. I honest to God, as much as like I hate like the way some people dick suck the fuck out of One Piece. I do want One Piece to have a good ending, or at least like
Mhm.
a very satisfying ending, because it'd be such a shame if I just caught up to One Piece one day and it was like an ass ending. I'd be so mad.
I just think he set up his chessboard so he set up his board so well that like he would literally have to keep knocking over his own pieces to be able to fuck up at this point.
Yeah,
Like it's so set up in a way where he's just now he literally said it himself. He's like, now we're in the end game. Now I can finally reveal like my hand. I can reveal the hand that you guys have been waiting to see. And it's
there's
like
so
his
many. Oh, my bad. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was done.
Oh, I was gonna say, like, at this point, there have been so many speculations on what the One Piece is. I just want whatever it is. I just want Luffy to find it, and I'm good. Like whatever it is, like I don't care what the One Piece is anymore. Just have Luffy find it, get the One Piece, become the Pirate King. Done. Like I'm good.
I think the One Piece is gonna be the most like it's gonna like how I don't know if you know the scene where like Roger laughed when he saw the One Piece.
I've seen it.
Like there's a scene where he's like, or a panel and a scene as well that he's just he looks at it for the first time with his crew and then they just laugh. Like that's the first initial reaction. I do think that's gonna be the same reaction we give as well. We're gonna be like, really? That's it? But then once I seen this theory that it's like it's gonna be literally like something very simple, like super simple, like Binks's brew, like it's like the alcohol, like it's probably just like a note and like a bottle, like super simple piratey thing, and it opens it, and then maybe he's like able to like do something with it or something. I think it's gonna be very like a small object though. Whatever it may be, it's gonna be a small object, and we're gonna be like, "That's it." We're gonna laugh, but that object's gonna have a lot of meaning to it and a lot of, you know what I mean? It's gonna tie things full circle.
I love my personal favorite theory is they're gonna be like, oh, it's gonna be like one half of a coin, like in a like a necklace or whatever, and it's like it's literally one piece.
Yeah,
like, yo,
I think
honest to God, I would laugh too if that was it. I'd be like, yo, that's hilarious. Of course.
I think it's already Oda literally threw it in our face, like he's preparing for us, like not to be like. If anybody that's caught up to the series right now think it's going to be this spectacular, I do think like since Roger left all of his treasure together, it's probably going to look really pretty, like really nice. And like that one scene in Aladdin when he goes into the mouth and like it looks something like that where all of his treasures around. It's going to be probably a really nice double spread, but like in the middle is going to be the One Piece, but it's going to be probably like a small little treasure box, and he opens it up and then it's like, what the fuck is this? And then he'll probably, honestly, knowing Luffy, if he is the first person to find it, because I know there's theories out there for him not to find it. I know we're getting off topic, but I think he's probably just gonna be like looking for it. It's like, where is it at? And then grabs it and then throws it.
Probably.
And then just throws it. And then it breaks. He's like, oh, that's it.
Well, okay. That's it. I guess I found it. Whatever.
No, literally. I'm pretty sure that's how it's gonna go.
It makes sense. But yeah, we're gonna wrap things up here soon. One final thing I want to ask you is if you were to tell now that why am I okay? Now that the anime finale has finally ended, it is the true ending that Isayama wanted, supposedly. What would you want to tell Isayama and like how you felt about One Piece and its ending, or not One Piece, but Attack on Titan and its ending?
I'd probably tell him. First of all, I'd tell him thank you because like that's definitely like he's impacted my life in so many different ways just from his story alone. Like I'd probably tell him thank you. I'd probably ask him more questions that haven't been answered. And I would just be like, you really stuck to it. Like you really stuck to your word in a sense. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I do feel like what I said kind of makes sense to just how like individuals grow. And like, especially when you care about something so much, I think that he did realize that like, damn, I could change it. I do have all this power in the world to do something, but he was very mature about how he would end his own story. It's like he didn't play God in a sense. He was just there along the way. Like, you know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah, I'd probably just tell him thank you though, for sure.
Yeah. I would tell Isayama being like, you know what? You really changed the way I watch anime because my audience knows this is the first anime I really watched like weekly, like on the internet. Like this isn't on some Toonami shit where I was waiting in front of the TV screen. This is like I was binging anime on my computer and on my phone up until Attack on Titan came out, and I was like, I can't wait. Like I have to watch this weekly. And now I prefer to watch anime weekly because that's all I have time for now. But it's like, dang, Isayama, you really made me delve into anime like this. Thank you very much.
No, that's the same I was. Like he was AoT was the first manga I read. So when I finished season 1, I remember finishing season 1 and then I found out the dub was coming out, and then I was gonna watch the dub, and then I started watching the dub a bit, and then I was like, damn, I need to read this. Like I've never read this before, and when I caught up to the manga, it was at the basement.
Mm-hmm.
So it was right before they got in.
Damn, that's
So
crazy.
that's when I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't wait for it, but then I really couldn't wait for it because that's like how
Right.
like close they were. So
Damn. You know, I people ask me like because I'm anime only when it comes to Attack on Titan, um, and I've stuck that way throughout the entire. No matter how many times I wanted to know what happened, I stuck to my guns. It was like, no. Isayama said the anime version is going to be the version. I'm sticking to it. People asked me if it was worth it, and honestly, yeah, I think it was. It was worth not knowing, you know. And I find and I watched it in in the way that Isayama wanted it to be, like first. You know, I'll go back and read the manga eventually to be like what the changes were, but I think, yeah, I'm glad I waited. You know what I mean?
yeah, dude, for me, like at the beginning portion of the series, I was so, and that's what struck my love for just like worlds in general and like just figuring out the unknown because like AOT did a really good job at like giving you just enough just so you want so much more. And that's when I was like, fuck it, I have to pick up the manga. I have to read this. I've never
I
read a manga in my life, but I need to learn right now.
I understand. I get it. Honestly, like I was so close so many times to like I'm gonna just fuck it. I'm gonna get the manga and just like figure out what happened. But hey, I stuck to my guns at the very as soon as like it said finals as long final season. Like literally, they were like, "Oh, the Attack on Titan, the final season." I didn't know there were gonna be so many parts, but you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. When they said final season, I was like, "Yep, not pick up the manga. I'm gonna stick through it." God, little did I know how long that was gonna take, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was great, a great time. Thank you, Attack on Titan, for real. I think it was man, I grew up with Attack on Titan. That's crazy. Like literally 10 years. I was a high schooler when I first started it, and now I'm a grown ass adult.
Damn, I was I was in elementary. Now
Yeah,
I'm an adult.
yeah, let's cut that out. Anyways, oh man, yo, Augie, I'm glad I waited. Well, besides the Flow podcast, we had. By the way, the Flow podcast is out of us talking about the finale of Attack on Titan. Literally the night of when it came out, we recorded that shit.
Yeah.
It's out right now, but I'm glad I went really in depth about this because I couldn't get all my questions off, and I'm glad that I was able to talk this out with you, and it made me realize, you know what, Attack on Titan is the ending that I wanted. It really is, and yeah, thanks for coming for real, and
Yeah,
I'm glad I got
always.
to talk.
That's fun.
It's all funs, man. Hey, and Attack on Titan, this is it, the end. This is the last time I'm going to talk about you in depth like this, hopefully, because man, honest to God, I'm so glad it ended because now I'm like I could relax for a little
Well, there
bit.
is like I know that there's like something coming out with AOT. I don't know if it's for sure, but I did see something. It was like wings of something, so it might be
Oh,
something. I don't know, but
please don't shit put in this shit. I swear on everything, don't do this.
yeah,
Oh my gosh, but yeah. Anyways, thank you so much, Augie. You know, plug everything you want. You know, is it just YouTube right now?
yeah. You could just be in the description. Yeah, like I'll
Okay,
just put my YouTube channel. Everything is I have a B links or like link tree and stuff, so you can find that
okay.
wherever. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, definitely send that over to me so I can put this down in the description. But also, like, you have another channel too, right? You have a second channel? No?
Yeah, I do want to do more like just kind of like I do have like an actual camera now, so I'd like kind of want to like get a green screen and like just
Yeah.
randomly chat about like anime and stuff or like just anything I'm interested in at the moment, like with a green screen with a video or something. That's something like I've been like working on, but I need to get the green screen.
But hey, I can't wait. You know what I mean? I'm just sitting here like, man, I thought Augie said he had a second channel. And I'm like waiting for it. I'm like, bro, what is he gonna upload? You know what I mean? But yeah, I'll definitely leave all that in the description down below. You know, support the boy, Augie, and the Flow podcast. You know, obviously I'll leave the podcast down in the description. It's great times, great times. If you guys watch the podcast, hey man, bird gang. You know what I mean? Hey, we all about the birds over there. We loved it. Hey, you know what? Yo, Augie, I'm gonna tell you this. We a little bit of spoilers on the podcast, but we're like, yo, the whole story is Isayama telling us he loves jeans and he wants to shop at American Eagle.
I was I was talking to River about that. I was so confused, but that makes sense. American Eagle,
Yo, Levi
Levi
jeans,
jeans.
the Eagle birds.
Yep.
Hey
American
man,
Eagle. That's the
oh,
whole story.
American
But you just
Eagle.
gotta
Yeah,
think. You just gotta like really like tap in and you'll realize it.
yes,
You have
man.
to tap in.
Isayama's a genius. Anyways, I think that's it. Anyways, guys, if you guys managed to watch this whole thing and not see Attack on Titan, man, just do it. Just do it. Just watch
That'd
it.
be crazy.
And let me know what you guys think about the ending down in the description below. I'm really curious if you thought it was actually ass or if you guys think it's a masterpiece. I think I fall in the middle, but you know, hey, who knows? I want to know what you guys think. Hey, Augie, say goodbye to the people.
Appreciate y'all for watching. See you next time.
I'll catch you guys later.